To take this course, you'll need to be ready to look inside. Effective leadership starts from within. It all flows from the strength of your inner game. So let's take a look at the inner game model. There are 3 circles or 3 areas, each with 3 components. The first is identity, or who you are. And it's at the bottom because it provides the foundation upon which the others are built. And your identity is made up of your beliefs, your values, and your traits. Beliefs are those things that you fundamentally and foundationally know to be true. And you know them to be true even when nothing else makes sense. Beliefs are what give you purpose and give your life meaning. This is the why of your leadership. That flows into values. Values is the how. Because of what is important to you, your values, how you show up, how you approach life, its people and events. And that flows into traits. And this is where things become more concrete. This is about behaviors. So traits, this is the what of your leadership, what other people see you do and hear you say. The next area is consciousness, how you think and feel. And it's made up of sense-making, emotional intelligence, and learning. So sense-making, based on how you see the world, the information that you take in. And most of us have a preference. We either take in information through our 5 senses, or we take in information in a more intuitive way via patterns and interrelationships. Neither's right, neither's wrong. It's just 2 ways of doing it. What's important to note is we all have bias. Some bias is ingrained based on evolutionary biology. And some of it is learned based on our lives' experiences. The key is to make our bias as conscious as possible. Because when we're consciously aware of our bias, we have a much better appreciation for the lens through which we see the world. And so much of that is attached to emotional intelligence, or the next component. Now, emotional intelligence, it has a comprehensive framework all on its own, and we're not going to get into that kind of detail. Suffice it to say that emotional intelligence is about the awareness and management of our own emotions and the awareness and management of how we deal with others on the emotional plane. Next, we have learning, and learning's a muscle. You can learn how to learn. And I favor the adult learning model where you start with a little bit of theory, you reflect upon it. You then experiment with that, you reflect upon it. You then try it out for real, see how it works, get some feedback, you reflect upon it. And it's this constant cycle of action and reflection that allows you to learn from experience and also from others as well. The last area is action orientation, and made up of decision-making, accountability, and resilience. So decision-making and sense-making, they go hand in hand. And most of us have a preference for decision-making. Either we're thinkers, meaning we make decisions based on logical analysis with a focus on objectivity. And some of us are feelers, where we make decisions based on personal and social values with a focus on harmony. Neither's right, neither's wrong. It's just, again, preferences or 2 ways of doing it. But what's layered on top of that is the fact that different situations call for different decision-making approaches. For example, in chaos, command and control works very well. Highly authoritative, directive, and immediate leadership and decision-making. However, the opposite is true in complexity. And complexity, where you've got many feedback loops, there's ambiguity. Here, some patience, probing the environment, allowing for emergence, and then consensus. Because in complexity, the group answer's typically better than any individual one. So you may have the same leader in the same team, but with different situations calling for very different decision-making approaches. Next, we have accountability. And for me, accountability boils down to two things: ownership and agency. And ownership's a mindset. Owning the situation, owning the problem, even though you didn't cause it. And that requires a high degree of emotional intelligence. So owning the situation, the problem, the solution, where agency comes in, the willingness to do something about it and not be a victim of circumstance. And lastly, owning the outcome, both good and bad, because you can do everything right based on the information that you have in the moment and not get the answers or the results you're looking for. And you got to own that and adapt. The last component of the inner game model is resilience. And the analogy that I use for resilience is a four-legged table, where the legs are body, mind, heart, and soul, or the physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. And spiritual can be religion, but it doesn't have to be. And the tabletop is your social network. To be resilient, you need to work on all four elements of your humanity. And the interesting thing about the tabletop, because that's outside of us, but there's been many studies done on resilience and longevity. And significant factors in many of those studies, in fact, the most significant factor in many of those studies was not physical health, but was the quality of those people's relationships. So it's those things that make up your personal resilience. So that's an overview of the inner game framework. And the best leaders amongst us will work on all of those elements to truly develop their leadership of self.